After dropping my phone on the floor, what's left to do? Well, I still need to fit the banjo bolt in the top, so I have to do that next. Just give it a little wipe, make sure that's a little bit cleaner as you can get it. Okay, and the banjo bolt is attached to obviously a bit of clear pipe. It's clear pipe because I want to check what actually happens. It's just a test, and if I get a lot of oil or a lot of problems, I shall probably change it to a dark, black pipe, rubber pipe or something, you know. It should be alright though. It's just a bit of washer pipe. Put that onto there. Slide it in. Finger tight first. Always finger tight first. Put my finger in that sealer which isn't dry yet. Finger tight first. If you can see that on the camera. Oh, it's missing. Okay, so that's in tight. Finger tight. Now if you notice, this bracket on the top is still loose. I loosened it off so I could get this on. When I put it back in the car, I'll leave that loose and that one's loose to get it lined up for the long bolt that goes through the two. If I tighten it up, it won't line up properly, so leave it loose. Get it on the car, get the bolts in, and then tighten the bracket bolts to hold it. Right, tighten the banjo. What size do you think that is? 17? It looks like a 17 to mine. And a 17mm it is. I need to stop that from spinning round, so what should we do? We'll put a small spanner in that gap. Awkward to get in. Can't get a socket in. I suppose I could take that off there. Okay. Sensible people take it off. It's a 13mm bolt. Take that off there. Put it aside. And just gently put the spanner in there. Stop it turning. Drop the spanner. That feels tight. Can always nip it up there if it need be. Right, next, put this bracket back on finger tight. Put my finger in that wet sealer. So what's going to happen is the old box, how it worked was there was a little breather hole there, and it's basically just a hole that lets out oil and vapour and hot air comes out of there, and it just pours everywhere. The other oil leak possibility is on this seal. If I just move the camera a little bit, that's better. Okay, the main seal here, the face inside, is the other oil leak potential, and also the selector seal can leak. Shouldn't be as much. Majority from that hole around this seal, and you think, well, how can that seal leak? But if you look on the flange, I'll lift that up, there's a little mark all the way. See that dark line there? That line is where the seal fits against the output and input flanges. So it's better as you put that onto there like that. Okay. The seal inside can leak, and people have had a lot of leaks. So you can buy them relatively cheap, them seals. I just went to a local bearing factory and said, have you got any of them? He said, yeah, there we go. And if you look closely, this is the old seal, there are some numbers marked on the side there, and it says 50, 65, 8. So I'm presuming that's the sizes. So maybe that's what 50 internal, 65 external, and 8 thick. Don't know. I think that's what it may be. To fit these, dead easy. To take the old one out, just get a 13mm type spanner. A normal. These have got bendy heads, but just using one with a normal one. And obviously it's in there. Take everything out and just literally prise it out with a spanner. It just pops straight out, no problem. Same with the other one, and same with the seal in there, all the same. To refit it, just push it in with your fingers, work it round with your thumbs, and it just goes in dead easy, really easy. Make sure it's seated all the way down, and that's it. Nothing to add, nothing to put in. Job done. The bearings, the small one, which is pressed into the top on the reverse lay shaft, is this little bad boy. It's made by a company called FAG, and it has a part number 6202C. I don't know if that's the part number or not, but you can clearly see that there. If you need one, that's the baby. The bigger one that's pressed into the casing for the main shaft is this bad boy, again made by FAG, and it has a few numbers on there which you can see. Don't know what they are, which one's the right ones, but FAG have been making bearings for yonks, so I don't know what the exact part is. I just went in and matched one up, and there you go, job done. What's next? The old bearings that came out were made by SKF, I think, if I remember rightly. Where is it now? There. On the old bearings, I don't know if you can see that. There. Come on, light. There. It's stamped in the side SKF. There is also some other writing on the side, 6206 on the side of there. So it's difficult to see in this light. There somewhere. I think that's the part number, as the new one says there 6206. What else? The selector seal. Good. A little pile of junk. Has some part numbers on it, some size numbers. Don't know what it is. Can you see that? It says 12 by 12 times 28 times 7. So if you need one of them, same thing again, it goes into the selector seal. You just prise out with a spanner, after taking all this out obviously, prise out with a spanner and push it in with your thumbs, dead easy. I bought 2 sets, all just some spares. What else? I did find that there was 2 shim washers fitted on the input and output shaft into there, and then the nut goes on, yeah, something like that, yeah. But when I took it all apart, there was some damage to that one there, which isn't very good compared to the other one, which is in quite good shape. So I don't think these have been sitting properly, and I don't think they're needed, to be honest. When you look at what they're doing, they obviously go into the hole. I don't think you can see this. Maybe if I move the camera, you might see it. There you go, it's a bit better. In the bottom of that hole, there is the splines sitting there, but those splines sit below the level of the flange. You see that? So the splines are the main shaft, and when you tighten the flange nut, it's going to sit onto this, pulling the whole flange onto the end of the bearing. So if I remove that, I'll show you what I mean. This nut goes into there and it presses the flange end onto the end of the bearing, and that's how it tightens up. So don't over tighten that too much, because the bearing is right behind it and you're going to squash it. So if you give it too much welly with a spanner, you're going to squash something. That face there sits onto the bearing. Somebody said 60 Newton meters, but I'm not sure. I think just tighten it as tight as I can get it really without damaging it. I don't really know what the torque is on it. So what have we got left? Done the case bolts, reverse. This will have to be adjusted again when I get it back on the car. I can adjust the lock nut. Just take a 10mm spanner, 10mm even, not an 8, 10mm spanner, loosen that off, and you can adjust the length of the bar to wherever you want it to match with the lever. You know, the lever inside the car, as to where you want the position of the lever to sit. So lock it off. Bearing in mind, watch it doesn't catch on the prop when it's turning. So theory, this is going to get hot inside here, so it's going to let off vapor, and we have this clear pipe which I shall run to the engine bay, and in the engine bay I shall put this little pot. This little pot has a bottom mount entry and exit, so any vapours will go into the pot and drain back. We're going to say that goes into there, yeah, in the engine bay, dead easy. Few quid, it's not a bad little pot. That's a clutch reservoir off a motorbike, about a tenner. I think it's quite cool. The only thing is the pipe, this pipe doesn't fit onto the hole, so I need to, I've got an adapter on the way, because there's the difference in the pipe, so I have an adapter coming. Hasn't arrived yet. What else? That's about it. So those two washers there, these two washers, I'm going to leave off for now. And just allow the nut itself to tighten it. So I shall temporarily put that on there, finger tight first, right on thread. Remember, that's the nut you can't buy, so don't lose it, don't cross thread it. And the other one, pipe's a nuisance. That one goes into there. One tip as well, the thread on here, make sure it's clean, I mean really clean. Clean it with thinners or something to degrease, the brake cleaner or something, and then once it's dry, wipe it down and put your thread lock on. Let it dry overnight before you use the car, and then that will ensure a really good lock. You can see that goes on. The socket I've got on here is a 1.1/8". That just fits on nice. Just cleaning off the threads a little bit. So when that's tight, you literally take a hammer and a punch and punch that flange, that little lip, and there's a, remember I said there was that little cutout in the end, I can't really see it very well, so you'd whack that into there to stop the nut from undoing itself, but I don't think you need it to be fair. The Loctite seems to hold it, get it tight enough. What's next? I think that's it, Big Daddy. I think we're there. Obviously these two nuts here are difficult to fasten, so what you do, clamp this in a vise, take a metal bar, you might have to fabricate it, take a big metal bar about a foot long, put 2 bolts through the flange, and then that'll hold this end while you tighten this nut, and the same the other side, just swap it over. Dead easy. What I'm also going to do is check that these flanges are not wobbling, basically, because I had a problem with vibration on the car, but that could have been the chain.